Hi folks, Gareth here. This video goes over the process I used to replace the Dyneema cord in my Epic surfski. I also replaced the footplate slider, which is the same slider on Epic, Fen, Carbonology, and point skis. I got hold of this Dyneema cord from Revo Kayaks. It's exactly the same as what's in the Epic already. You can also get this from most yachting shops as well. So this is my trusty Epic. There is Dyneema cord from the rudder all the way to the pedal and front of the pedal. This makes it quite easy to replace. There aren't any joins in the way. Start by cutting off the nuts at the rudder. The rudder is fastened by a simple knot with a loop through the rudder bar, which prevents it pulling through. I use this painter's tape to join the cable and relied on the strength of the tape to pull the cable through. It worked quite well. Simply put the two cables sort of end to end, then tightly wrap the painter's tape around it, and then rolled it into a thin piece that could be pulled through. You can see that pulls through quite easily. Pops out the other side. And then measure what's needed for the area in the footplate. I took a little bit extra. The end of the cord is going to go into that white fastener in front. Then measure a little bit extra on the end and cut your cord, and then do the same on the other side. Okay, so both ends are done. I'm now ready to feed that through the rudder bar. The holes in the rudder bar are quite small, so I use this painter's tape to create a kind of a needle on the end of the cord to feed through that bar. That's it. I also wanted to replace my sliders. As you can see, the aluminium is severely corroded. The actual runner itself is fine. It's just the aluminium slider that runs on the rail that needs to be replaced. You can see the salt from the band sitting on that aluminium has corroded it quite badly. So first of all, remove the footplate itself, 4 screws holding it in place, and then replace. These are replacements I got from Carbonology, from a Carbonology, I think it was a Volt, old surfski that I had, reused some of the parts. The actual runners themselves, the footplates are different per surfski. The runners themselves are the same on Fen, Epic, Carbonology, and Point Water Sports as well. So this is a little clip of how bad the corrosion can get. I'm removing the square bracket or angle bracket, whatever it's called, and remove the cloth footband. You can see the corrosion that's come through. This is probably 4 or 5 years old, this boat, I think. This has never been maintained or changed in that time. You can see that's probably I don't know, maybe a 2 mil thick aluminium. The salt is eaten right through. You can see it's not the screws, it's the actual where the band sits. So these are the same rails, but the replacement sliders on the rails. The reason I've used the same rails is you can see on the end of that bar there's a tiny hole. It's about a 2 mil, 3 mil hole. That's used on the Epic for the cable later on. The runners you get on the others, they do come with a little hole in front, but it's a lot smaller. You can't fit the Dyneema cord through it. So here I'm just putting everything back together on the new slider. It's a little bit fiddly, it doesn't take too long. And then fit the slider both sides back onto the foot plate and put the foot plate back into the boat. As you can see, it looks a lot cleaner. Now it's time to feed the Dyneema cord through the pedals. The Dyneema makes a kind of an S-bend through the pedal, which helps the cord sort of fix onto the pedal so they don't move around. The newer fins also use this. The Carbonologies also use this. If you've got an older fin and you are considering replacing the cable for Dyneema cord, because of the screw attachment on the metal cable to hold the foot plate in place, that you would have to come up with a plan, some kind that you'd potentially have to drill holes and make an S-bend, which you may not want to do on your nice fin. There is that little hole I was talking about in the front of the slider or rail. The Dyneema cord pulls through there on each side, and then they get fastened onto a I call it a peddle adjuster. It's a little nylon thread which can screw out or in, which then lengthens or shortens the overall length of the cable enough to shift the pedals forward or backward depending on how you want your foot position to be. That's the pedal adjuster. Doesn't matter which way you put it, and each end of the cord will go into one of those. A simple single knot will hold it in place. The hole in that pedal adjuster is very small. A single knot won't pull through. Remember, the rudder side cable hasn't been fastened yet, so there's no measuring need to be done just yet. Put that back together. You'll see in the picture later, I've screwed it all the way to the end. You should actually roll this to the middle, and it gives you a bit of wiggle room to either loosen or tighten depending on your foot position. So you want to get that foot or pedal adjuster somewhere in the middle, and then the front of the boat is pretty much done. We need to fasten the rudder in place so it doesn't move around while we're doing adjustments. I use a little piece of rubber I had lying around, put it under the rudder, and keeps it from moving around. That rudder's in place nicely. The pedals need to be kept in the same position. You can use a piece of wood or something. I had a piece of metal lying around. I use that with some clamps. I also use the clamps to keep the pedals in the right angle, sort of adjusting the clamps in the right position to keep the pedals at the angle that I wanted. Then the front is ready to go. And all that's left is to adjust the rear, get your cord to the right position, measure it, and then tie a simple knot into your cord, and you're done. I've used a marker here just to mark where the cord needs to sit, where the knots need to sit. And make a simple knot with the tail. In the video, the tail's quite small. I ended up lengthening this quite a bit to about an inch and a half, just to keep a bit of extra cord for just in case we need to extend anything. It's the same knots used by Epic as well. Those things won't be coming undone. So those pedals are in place. You may need some slight adjustment on those knots. You can also adjust the knot in front if need be, but that should be pretty much where you want it. Now, just an example of the pedal adjuster to tighten it, to move the pedals a little bit forward. And that's pretty much that. The last thing to do is to put on the little pull tie to pull the clamps or clips to adjust the foot plate. Very simple job. And then we are done. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope this video was useful. Take care.